September 18th, 1881. Red Canyon, Texas. Cole Brennan knelt in the dirt before 3 wooden crosses. His wife, Margaret. His daughter, Emma, 5 years old. His son, Liam, 3. 9 years since the fire took them. 9 years since he'd felt anything but the weight of breathing. His knees pressed into the earth, the same earth that held what remained of his family. The morning sun climbed over the canyon walls, painting the crosses in gold light that felt wrong, too beautiful for this place of endings. $23 in his pocket. Mortgage payment due in 14 days. The Brennan Ranch, 100 acres his father had carved from raw Texas wilderness, was dying the same slow death as the man who owned it. Cole's hands were calloused and cracked, the hands of a man who worked to forget. He didn't pray anymore. Hadn't since the night he'd watched his home burn with his family inside, his own hands blistered and bleeding from trying to break through walls that wouldn't give. He stood, joints protesting. 45 years old, and he felt 70. The wind moved through the canyon, carrying the scent of sage and distant rain. September, in West Texas, meant the land was waiting, holding its breath before the cold came. His horse, a bay mare named Dust, stood patient at the fence line. She'd been with him 8 years now, one of the few things left from before. Cole walked to her, ran his hand along her neck, and pulled himself into the saddle. The cattle needed checking. That's what a rancher did. You checked the cattle, mended the fences, fixed what broke, and tried not to think about how it all meant nothing when you had no one to leave it to. The ride to the south pasture took 20 minutes. Cole kept his eyes on the horizon, watching for breaks in the fence line, for cattle that might have wandered. The ranch was small now. He'd sold off half the herd 2 years back when the bank started making noise about payments. 60 head left, barely enough to keep the place running. But it was his, or would be for 14 more days. Blackwater Creek ran through the southern edge of his property, a narrow stream that barely deserved the name creek most of the year. September, though, with the rains, it ran fuller. Cole could hear it before he saw it, that constant whisper of water over stone. He dismounted near the fence line, checking the posts for rot, the wire for breaks, routine, mechanical, the kind of work that filled hours without requiring thought. That's when he heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Not wind, not animal, something else. Cole froze, his hand instinctively going to the rifle on his saddle. He listened. There, again. Faint, carried on the wind from downstream. A cry. Human. His heart kicked against his ribs, the first real feeling he'd had in hours, maybe days. He swung back into the saddle and urged Dust toward the sound, following the creek's curve around a stand of cottonwoods. There, in the water. Something dark, fabric maybe, caught against the rocks where the creek narrowed. Cole dismounted before Dust had fully stopped. He waded into the creek, boots filling with cold water, not caring. The bundle was burlap tied with rough rope at the top. It moved, not from the current, from inside. His hands shook as he lifted it, heavy. He carried it to the bank and set it down with a gentleness that surprised him. The rope was knotted tight, but his knife made quick work of it. The burlap fell open. A baby. Cole's breath stopped. A baby girl, maybe 8 or 9 months old, with matted blonde hair plastered to her skull. Her skin was blue-gray, lips purple. Her eyes were closed. She wasn't moving. For 3 seconds, Cole Brennan was back in that burning house 9 years ago, holding his daughter's small body, knowing he was too late, knowing he'd failed. Then the baby gasped, a tiny, desperate sound. Cole's hands moved without thought. He stripped off his coat and wrapped her in it, pulling her against his chest. She was cold, so cold, like holding ice shaped like a child. She gasped again, a shuddering breath that seemed to take everything she had. Her eyes opened, unfocused and distant, blue eyes, the color of Texas sky. Her lips moved. No sound came out at first, then barely a whisper. Mama. Something broke open in Cole's chest. Something that had been frozen solid for 9 years cracked and bled. He was on dust in seconds, the baby clutched to his chest with one arm, reins in his other hand. He dug his heels in, and dust responded, stretching into a gallop that ate up the ground between the creek and the ranch house. The baby's breathing was shallow, irregular. Her skin felt like marble. How long had she been in that water? How long in that sack before that? Questions for later. Right now she needed warmth. She needed help. She needed things Cole didn't know how to give. The ranch house appeared, small and weathered, and suddenly inadequate. Cole dismounted without fully stopping, stumbled, caught himself. He kicked open the door. The house was cold. He'd let the fire die that morning. Stupid. He laid the baby on the table, kept his coat wrapped around her, and worked to rebuild the fire with shaking hands. Kindling. Logs. His hands fumbled with matches. The fire caught. Cole carried the baby closer, sat in his chair by the hearth, held her in the growing warmth. Her breathing was so quiet he had to put his face close to hers to hear it. Talk to her, some instinct said. Babies need voices. Cole's throat was dry. He couldn't remember the last time he'd spoken more than 3 words to anyone. "Stay with me," he said. His voice came out rough, unused. "Just stay with me." The baby's fingers curled slightly. The tiniest movement, but movement. Cole looked at the clock on the mantel. 10:15 in the morning. Town was 40 minutes away. Doc Walker was there, though the old man was pushing 80 and his hands shook more than they steadied. But there was no choice. This baby needed more than Cole could give her. He wrapped her in every blanket he had, creating a cocoon. Her breathing seemed marginally better, but her skin was still too cold, her lips still too blue. The ride to Red Canyon was the longest 40 minutes of Cole's life. He kept the baby inside his coat, against his chest, sharing what warmth he had. He talked to her, nonsense mostly, just sounds to let her know she wasn't alone. "Almost there, you're doing fine, just a little further." Dust seemed to understand the urgency. She held a steady pace that was just short of dangerous on the canyon road. Red Canyon appeared ahead, a cluster of buildings tucked into the valley. Maybe 200 people called it home. General store, saloon, church. Doc Walker's office. Cole guided Dust straight down Main Street. People stopped to stare. Cole Brennan didn't come to town unless he had to. Cole Brennan didn't talk to people. And Cole Brennan certainly didn't ride through town like the devil was chasing him with something bundled in his coat. Doc Walker's office was at the end of Main Street, a small white building with a sign that had seen better days. Cole was off his horse and through the door before Dust had fully stopped. Doc Walker looked up from his desk, startled. He was a thin man with white hair and wire-rimmed glasses that magnified his eyes. "Cole, what in the world?" "Found her in the creek." Cole's voice was urgent. "She's barely breathing, been in cold water, don't know how long." Doc Walker's training took over. He cleared his desk with one sweep of his arm, and Cole laid the baby down. The doctor unwrapped the blankets, his expression growing grave, as he saw the blue tint to her skin. "How long ago?" 20 minutes, maybe 30. Rode as fast as I could." Doc Walker pressed his ear to the baby's chest, listening. He checked her pulse at her neck, lifted her eyelids, examined her carefully. "She's hypothermic, badly, and she's malnourished. Look at her ribs." He glanced at Cole. "You said you found her in a creek?" "Blackwater Creek, in a burlap sack, tied shut." The doctor's face went hard. "Someone put her there." "Yes." They looked at each other. In that moment, without words, they both understood what that meant. Someone had tried to kill this baby. Doc Walker shook his head and turned back to his patient. "I need to warm her up slowly. Too fast and we could lose her. I need hot water bottles, blankets, and I need to keep her temperature monitored constantly." "What can I do?" The doctor hesitated. "Cole, I'm 80 years old. My hands shake. I can monitor her, but she's going to need constant care. Feeding every 2 hours, someone to hold her, keep her warm, someone who knows how to care for an infant. I don't? I know you don't. Which is why you need to get Eliza Hart. Cole felt his jaw tighten. Eliza Hart ran the general store. Widow woman, kept to herself mostly. Cole knew her the way everyone in a small town knows everyone else. Polite nods on the rare occasions he came to town. Nothing more. Doc, I can't ask her to. You're not asking. I'm telling you. This baby needs a woman's care or she's not going to make it through the night. Doc Walker's eyes were firm behind his glasses. Eliza lost a daughter 2 years back. Little girl about 2 years old. Fever took her. If anyone in this town knows what this baby needs, it's her. Cole swallowed. The idea of asking for help, of admitting he couldn't do this alone, felt like swallowing broken glass. But the baby on the table gasped again, a sound that seemed to take everything she had. Her tiny hand curled into a fist. Where? Cole asked. General store, go. I'll keep her stable until you get back. Cole ran. The general store was 3 buildings down. Cole crashed through the door hard enough to make the bell overhead clatter violently. Eliza Hart looked up from behind the counter, surprise crossing her face. She was a woman in her early 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. She wore a simple dress and an apron dusted with flour. Mr. Brennan, are you? Need your help. Cole's words came fast. Found a baby in the creek. She's dying. Doc says she needs a woman's care. Says you know how. Eliza's expression shifted from surprise to shock to something else. Pain, maybe, or fear. Mr. Brennan, I don't think... Please. The word came out raw. She's maybe 8 months old. Someone tied her in a sack and threw her in the water. She's at Doc's office right now, and she's cold and she's barely breathing and I don't know what to do. Eliza stood very still. Her hands gripped the counter edge. I can't, she whispered. You're the only one who can. I lost my daughter. I know. Doc told me. I lost my family too, 9 years ago. I know what it costs to care. Cole took a step closer. But that baby didn't ask to be thrown in a creek. She didn't ask for any of this. And right now, she's fighting to stay alive. I'm asking you to help her fight. Something shifted in Eliza's eyes. She untied her apron, set it on the counter. Show me. They walked quickly back to Doc Walker's office. Inside, the doctor had the baby wrapped in warm blankets, holding a hot water bottle against her side. Eliza stopped in the doorway. Her hand went to her mouth. Oh, God, she's so small. Mrs. Hart, Doc Walker said, thank you for coming. I need you to take over warming her. Skin-to-skin contact works best. Hold her against your chest. Let your body heat transfer to hers. I'll prepare a sugar water solution. She's dehydrated. Eliza moved forward slowly, like approaching something fragile that might shatter. Doc Walker transferred the baby to her arms carefully. The moment Eliza held the baby against her chest, something happened. The baby, who had been restless and twitching, went still. Not the stillness of death, the stillness of relief. Eliza's eyes filled with tears. Hello, little one, she whispered. I've got you now. Cole watched as Eliza sat in Doc Walker's chair, cradling the baby close, rocking slightly. The doctor wrapped more blankets around them both, creating a warm nest. Temperature is coming up, Doc Walker said, checking with a thermometer. Slowly. That's good. That's what we want. The next hour passed in tense silence. Doc Walker prepared a bottle with sugar water and a little milk. Eliza tried to feed the baby, but she was too weak to suck properly. They had to drip tiny amounts into her mouth, waiting for her to swallow. Cole stood by the window, useless and helpless. This wasn't mending fence or breaking horses. This was beyond him. She's responding, Doc Walker said finally. Color's better, breathing stronger. Mrs. Hart, you have a gift. Eliza looked up, tears still tracking down her cheeks. She's fighting so hard. She is. The doctor looked at Cole. You got her here fast. That saved her life. Another hour in that water, and we'd be having a different conversation. Cole nodded, not trusting his voice. Now, Doc Walker said, we need to talk about what happens next. This baby needs constant care for at least the next few days, maybe longer. She needs feeding every 2 hours. She needs to be kept warm. She needs to be watched for signs of pneumonia or fever. I can do that, Eliza said quietly. It's a lot to ask. I know. Eliza looked down at the baby in her arms. The child's eyes were open now, looking up at her with that unfocused infant gaze. I'll do it. Cole felt relief and guilt in equal measure. I'll pay you. Whatever you need. I don't want your money, Mr. Brennan. Eliza's voice was firm. I want to help this child, that's all. Doc Walker cleared his throat. There's another matter we need to discuss. Someone put this baby in that creek. Someone tried to kill her. We need to tell Sheriff Miller. Cole hadn't thought that far ahead. But the doctor was right. This wasn't an accident. This was attempted murder. I'll go, Cole said. Take me with you, Eliza said. The baby can come. She needs to stay warm and fed, but she's stable enough to move now. They fashioned a carrier from blankets, and Eliza held the baby close as they walked the 3 blocks to the sheriff's office. Cole led Dust behind them, the horse's hooves loud on the dirt street. Sheriff Robert Miller was at his desk when they entered, a man in his late 50s with a thick mustache and tired eyes. He'd been sheriff of Red Canyon for 20 years. He looked up as they entered. His eyes went from Cole to Eliza to the bundle in her arms. Well now, that's not something you see every day. Cole Brennan socializing. Found her in Blackwater Creek this morning, Cole said, ignoring the jab, in a burlap sack. Tied shut. Left to drown. The sheriff's expression changed. He stood, came around his desk. May I? Eliza pulled back the blanket. The baby blinked at the sudden light. Sheriff Miller's face went hard. Jesus Christ, who would do such a thing? That's what we need you to find out, Doc Walker said. He'd followed them from his office. That baby's maybe 8 or 9 months old. Someone around here is missing an infant, or should be. The sheriff nodded slowly. I'll ask around, quietly. But Cole, if someone tried to kill this baby and you're protecting her, you might be putting yourself in danger. Don't care. You should. I don't. Cole met the sheriff's eyes. Someone threw a baby in a creek to die. I pulled her out. That makes her my responsibility now. Sheriff Miller studied him for a long moment. All right then. I'll do what I can. But Cole, be careful. People who try to kill babies don't usually stop at one attempt. They left the sheriff's office with those words hanging heavy in the air. Eliza turned to Cole. Where should I take her? My place is above the store. It's not much, but it's warm. I'll help you get set up, Cole said. They walked back to the general store. Eliza lived in 3 small rooms above the shop. Simple furniture, everything neat and ordered. Cole could see the ghost of her daughter in the way the space was arranged. A rocking chair by the window. An empty cradle in the corner. Eliza saw him looking at the cradle. I couldn't get rid of it, she said quietly. No reason you should have. She carried the baby to the cradle, laid her down gently. The baby immediately started to fuss. She doesn't want to be alone, Eliza said. She picked the baby back up and sat in the rocking chair instead, settling the child against her chest. The baby quieted instantly. Cole stood awkwardly by the door, feeling like an intruder in this moment. Mr. Brennan, Eliza said, you should go home, get some rest. You look exhausted. Don't want to leave her. I know, but she's stable now, and I'll be up with her all night anyway. Come back in the morning. We can figure out what to do next. Cole nodded slowly. He looked at the baby, now sleeping peacefully in Eliza's arms. So small, so fragile, so impossibly alive after what someone had tried to do to her. Thank you, he said, for helping her. Thank you for finding her, Eliza replied. For not riding past that creek, Cole left. Outside the sun was setting, painting Red Canyon in gold and orange light. He mounted Dust and rode home slowly, his mind replaying the day's events on an endless loop. Someone had tried to kill that baby, had tied her in a sack and thrown her in a creek like unwanted trash. The thought made his hands shake with anger he hadn't felt in years. Who? And why? The ranch was dark when he arrived. He tended to dust, fed her, brushed her down. Mechanical tasks. Familiar. Inside the house, the fire had died again. Cole didn't bother rebuilding it. He sat in his chair and stared at the ashes. For 9 years, he'd been going through motions. Wake up, work, sleep, repeat. No purpose beyond survival. No reason beyond habit. Today, something had changed. That baby's cry, her tiny hand curling around his finger. The word "mama" spoken to a stranger because she needed someone, anyone, to care. Cole put his head in his hands. He'd failed his own children, hadn't saved them from the fire, hadn't been fast enough or strong enough or there when they needed him most. Maybe this was a chance. Maybe saving this baby could somehow balance the scales for the children he'd lost. Or maybe he was a fool and some things couldn't be balanced. He didn't sleep that night. At dawn, Cole was back on dust, riding toward town. He told himself he was just checking on the baby, making sure Eliza had everything she needed. The truth was, he couldn't stay away. Eliza's door was unlocked. Cole knocked softly and entered when he heard her call. She was in the rocking chair, still holding the baby. She looked exhausted, her hair coming loose from its bun, dark circles under her eyes. "How is she?" Cole asked. "Strong. She ate 4 times in the night. Temperature is normal now. Doc Walker stopped by an hour ago. He says she's going to be fine." Cole felt relief wash over him. "Physically, anyway," Eliza added. "Emotionally, I don't know. What she went through, being abandoned like that." She looked down at the baby. No child should experience that. "No," Cole agreed. The baby was awake, her blue eyes looking around the room with more focus than yesterday. When she saw Cole, something changed in her expression. Recognition, maybe. She reached out one tiny hand toward him. "I think she remembers you," Eliza said softly. Cole moved closer. The baby's hand touched his, her fingers wrapping around his thumb. The grip was surprisingly strong. "Hey there, little one," Cole said. His voice came out gentler than he expected. The baby made a sound, not quite words, but not random noise either. She was trying to communicate something. "She needs a name," Eliza said. "We can't keep calling her the baby." Cole thought about that. A name meant permanence, meant claiming her in some way, meant this wasn't temporary. "Rose," he said. "My grandmother's name. She was tough as nails, survived things that would have killed most people." "Rose." Eliza tested the name. "I like it." She looked down at the baby. "What do you think, little one? Do you like Rose?" The baby, as if in answer, smiled. Just a tiny upturn of her lips. But it was real. Cole felt that crack in his chest widen. They spent the day taking turns caring for Rose. Eliza taught Cole how to hold a baby properly, how to support the head, how to test bottle temperature on his wrist. Cole was clumsy at first, his big hands uncertain with something so small and breakable. But Rose was patient with him. She didn't cry when he held her, just looked up at him with those blue eyes like she was trying to figure him out. "Talk to her," Eliza said. "Babies need to hear voices. It helps them feel safe." Cole didn't know what to say to a baby, but he tried. "You're going to be okay now. No one's going to hurt you again. I promise." It was a promise he meant to keep, though he had no idea how. That afternoon, Sheriff Miller came by the store. His expression was grave. "Got some information," he said. "Not good. There's been talk around town. Someone asking questions about a missing baby." Cole's hand instinctively went to the gun at his hip. "Who?" "Don't know yet, but they're offering money, $1,000 for information." $1,000. That was more than most people in Red Canyon made in 2 years. "Someone rich then," Eliza said quietly. "That'd be my guess. And rich usually means powerful." The sheriff looked at Cole. "You sure you want to be in the middle of this?" I'm already in the middle of it. Fair enough. I'll keep digging. But Cole, be careful. And Mrs. Hart, you too. If someone's willing to kill a baby once, they might try again. After the sheriff left, Cole and Eliza sat in silence. Rose slept in the cradle, oblivious to the danger gathering around her. "What are we going to do?" Eliza asked. "Keep her safe, whatever it takes. They'll come for her." "I know. And we're just a cowboy and a shopkeeper against someone with $1,000 to throw around." "I know that too." Eliza looked at him. "Why are you doing this, Mr. Brennan? You don't know this child. She's not your responsibility." Cole was quiet for a long moment. He looked at Rose, sleeping peacefully, her tiny chest rising and falling. "I couldn't save my own children," he said finally. "Maybe I can save her." Understanding crossed Eliza's face. She nodded slowly. "Then we'll do it together, because I couldn't save my daughter either, and maybe saving Rose is how we start to forgive ourselves." They shook hands on it. A pact between two broken people and one tiny baby who had no idea how much danger she was in. That night Cole stayed at the store. He slept on the floor by the door, his rifle across his lap, listening for any sound that didn't belong. Rose woke twice for feeding. Each time Cole watched as Eliza held her, singing soft lullabies that made his throat tight. At dawn on the third day, Rose did something new. She'd been lying on a blanket on the floor watching Eliza prepare a bottle when suddenly she rolled over onto her stomach. It was such a small thing, but it meant she was getting stronger, recovering. "Did you see that?" Eliza's voice was filled with joy. "She rolled over." Cole couldn't help but smile. "She's a fighter." "She is." Rose pushed up on her arms, lifting her head to look around. Her eyes found Cole, and she made a sound, almost like she was calling him. Cole knelt beside her. "What is it, little one?" Rose reached for him. Her hand touched his face, fingers spreading across his weathered cheek. Then she said it, clear as day. "Papa!" Cole froze. The room went silent. "Did she just?" Eliza started. "Papa!" Rose said again, smiling up at him. Cole's vision blurred. He picked Rose up, held her close, and for the first time in 9 years, he let himself cry. Not the desperate, angry tears he'd shed at his family's graves. These were different. These hurt, but in a way that felt like healing. Rose patted his face, making soothing sounds, like she was the one comforting him. "It's okay," Cole whispered. "Papa's okay." Eliza wiped her own tears away. "I think she's claimed you, Mr. Brennan." "Cole," he said. "Just Cole." "Cole, then. And I'm Eliza." They looked at each other over the baby's head. Two strangers 3 days ago, now something more. Partners in protecting this child. Outside, Red Canyon was waking up. Store owners opening shops. Horses and wagons moving through the street. Normal life continuing like the world hadn't shifted. But it had shifted, at least for Cole. For 9 years he'd been waiting to die, going through the motions of living without any real purpose. Now he had a purpose, this tiny girl who called him Papa, who trusted him to keep her safe. He would die before he let anyone hurt her. "We should take her back to the ranch," Cole said. "The store is too exposed, too many people coming and going. At the ranch, I can see anyone approaching." Eliza hesitated. "That's your private space, Cole. I don't want to intrude." "You wouldn't be. And Rose needs somewhere safe, somewhere whoever's looking for her can't easily get to." "All right, let me pack some things." They prepared to leave, gathering supplies for the baby. Bottles, blankets, the few clothes Eliza had managed to cobble together. Sheriff Miller appeared just as they were loading Cole's wagon. "Thought you should know," he said. "I found out who's asking questions. Or rather, who works for the man asking questions." "Who?" Cole asked. "Name's Nathaniel Ashford, richest man in 3 counties, owns the biggest ranch, the bank, half the businesses in Carson City." Cole's jaw tightened. Ashford. He knew the name. Everyone did. The man who controlled everything and everyone. Why would someone like Ashford be looking for Rose? That's the question, isn't it? The sheriff looked troubled. But Cole, if you're up against Ashford, you need to know what you're dealing with. He doesn't lose. Ever. He's got money, lawyers, and half the judges in Texas in his pocket. Don't care. You should. This isn't just about keeping a baby safe anymore. This is about going against the most powerful man in the region. Then I guess that's what I'm doing. Sheriff Miller shook his head. You always were stubborn. All right. I'll help where I can, but Cole, watch your back. Ashford doesn't fight fair. They left Red Canyon in Cole's wagon, Eliza holding Rose wrapped in blankets. The ride to the ranch took an hour. Cole kept his eyes on the horizon, watching for riders that didn't belong. The ranch appeared, small and worn but solid. Home. Cole helped Eliza down from the wagon. She looked around, taking in the house, the barn, the fenced pastures. It's beautiful, she said. It's falling apart. No, it's lived in. There's a difference. Inside, Cole showed her to the bedroom. His bedroom. You and Rose take this. I'll sleep in the barn. Cole, I can't take your bed. You can and you will. Rose needs somewhere comfortable. This room is warmer than the others. Eliza started to protest, then stopped. She looked tired, exhausted from 3 days of round-the-clock care. Thank you, she said finally. Cole helped her set up the cradle they'd brought from town. Rose was asleep in Eliza's arms, peaceful and unaware of the storm gathering around her. That evening, as the sun set over the canyon, Cole stood on his porch and looked out at his land. Somewhere out there, Nathaniel Ashford was looking for Rose. A man with unlimited resources against one worn-out cowboy and a grieving shopkeeper. The odds weren't good. But Cole had learned something in the last 3 days. He'd learned that he wasn't dead inside after all, that he could still feel, still care, still fight for something beyond his own survival. Rose had given him that. This tiny baby who'd been thrown away like trash had reminded him what it meant to be human. He would protect her, whatever it took, whatever it cost. Behind him, through the window, he could hear Eliza singing a lullaby. Rose made small cooing sounds in response, the sound of a family, the sound of home. Cole hadn't heard those sounds in 9 years. He'd forgotten how much he needed them. A coyote howled in the distance. The wind shifted, bringing the scent of rain. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Ashford would come eventually. The fight was inevitable. But tonight, for the first time since that terrible fire, Cole Brennan felt something he thought was gone forever. Hope. And that made all the difference. The storm arrived on the 4th morning. Cole was in the barn, pitching hay for the horses, when he heard the sound of carriages. Not wagons. Carriages. The kind that cost more than his entire ranch. He set down his pitchfork and walked to the barn door. 3 black carriages were coming up the road, moving slow and deliberate. Dust clouds rose behind them like smoke signals announcing war. Cole's hand went to the rifle leaning against the barn wall. He checked the load, then walked toward the house. Eliza was at the window, Rose in her arms. "Is that him?" she asked. "Has to be." The carriages stopped 50 yards from the house. 4 men stepped out of the first carriage. 3 were clearly guards, hired muscle with guns on their hips and hard eyes that scanned for threats. The 4th man was different. Nathaniel Ashford stood 6 feet tall, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than Cole made in a year. Silver hair swept back from a face that might have been handsome once, before cruelty had carved deep lines around the mouth. He carried a walking stick with a silver handle, though he clearly didn't need it for support. It was a prop, a statement. From the second carriage emerged a man in a gray suit carrying a leather case. Lawyer. Had to be. The third carriage held 2 more men. One was Sheriff Miller, looking deeply uncomfortable. The other wore a deputy's badge Cole didn't recognize. Ashford walked forward with the confidence of a man who'd never heard the word no. The lawyer followed at his shoulder. The guards spread out, forming a loose perimeter. Cole stepped off the porch, rifle held loose but ready. "That's far enough." Ashford stopped. His eyes swept over Cole, assessing, dismissing. "Mr. Brennan, I presume. I'm Nathaniel Ashford. I believe you have something that belongs to my family." "Don't know what you're talking about." "Don't insult my intelligence. You pulled an infant from Blackwater Creek 4 days ago. That child is my granddaughter. I've come to collect her." Cole's grip tightened on the rifle. "Your granddaughter, the one someone tied in a sack and threw in the creek to die." Ashford's expression didn't change. There was a tragic misunderstanding. A servant acted beyond his authority. He's been dealt with. Now I'm here to correct the situation and take the child home where she belongs. She belongs with people who won't try to kill her. The lawyer stepped forward. "Mr. Brennan, my name is Edmund Price. I represent the Ashford family. I have documents here establishing Mr. Ashford's legal guardianship of the child. As her grandfather and nearest living relative, the law is quite clear on his rights." "What about her mother?" Cole asked. Something flickered in Ashford's eyes. "Annoyance, maybe. My daughter is young and foolish. She made a mistake. I'm cleaning it up." "A mistake? That's what you call a baby?" "I call it what it is. A complication that needs to be resolved quietly and properly." Ashford's voice was steel wrapped in silk. "Now, Mr. Brennan, I'm a reasonable man. I understand you've incurred expenses caring for the child. I'm prepared to compensate you generously. Shall we say $500? $500, 6 months of mortgage payments, money Cole desperately needed." "No." Ashford's eyebrows rose slightly. "You're refusing $500? I'm refusing to hand over a baby to a man who tried to kill her. I didn't try to kill anyone. As I said, a servant exceeded his authority. But this discussion is pointless. Edmund, show him the papers." The lawyer opened his case and pulled out several documents. He held them up, though he was too far away for Cole to read them. "These are custody papers signed by Judge Theodore Dalton in Carson City. They grant full legal guardianship to Mr. Ashford. Sheriff, I believe you're required to enforce this." Sheriff Miller looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. He stepped forward reluctantly. "Cole, I'm sorry, but if those papers are legal, I have to enforce them." "Let me see them," Cole said. The lawyer walked forward, stopping 10 feet away, and held out the documents. Cole took them, careful to keep his rifle ready. The papers looked official. Lots of legal language Cole barely understood, but at the bottom was a judge's signature and seal. "This judge," Cole said. "Friend of yours, Ashford?" "Judge Dalton is a respected member of the Carson City community. And yes, we play cards on occasion, but his ruling is based entirely on law, not friendship." Cole looked at Sheriff Miller. "This legal?" The sheriff's face was grim. "If the judge signed it, then yeah, it's legal. So that's it? Law says a man can try to kill his grandchild, then take her back when it fails?" "Law says family has rights," the sheriff said quietly. "I don't like it either, Cole, but my hands are tied." The front door of the house opened. Eliza stepped onto the porch holding Rose. The baby was awake, looking around with curious eyes. Ashford's attention shifted to them. Something changed in his expression when he saw Rose, not warmth, not love, something colder, assessment. "There she is," he said. "Victoria's unfortunate mistake." From the second carriage, a young woman emerged. She moved slowly, like someone walking to their execution. She wore a fine dress of dark blue, her blonde hair pinned up elaborately. But her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. Victoria Ashford, Rose's mother. She approached the house, stopping beside her father. Her eyes locked on Rose and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "May I hold her?" Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. Eliza looked at Cole. He gave a small nod. Victoria climbed the porch steps. Eliza held Rose out to her. But the moment Victoria's hands touched the baby, Rose began to scream, not the soft crying of a hungry infant. The terrified wails of a child who sensed danger. Rose twisted in Victoria's grip, reaching frantically toward Eliza. "Mama! Mama!" Victoria's face crumbled. She tried to hold Rose closer, to soothe her, but the baby only screamed louder. "She doesn't know me," Victoria said, her voice breaking. "My own daughter doesn't know me." She looked at her father with sudden fury in her eyes. "You told me she died. You said there were complications and she didn't survive. I grieved for months while she was alive." "Victoria, we discussed this." Ashford's voice carried a warning. "It was for the best." "For the best? You tried to have my baby killed." Victoria's voice rose, loud enough that everyone could hear. "I heard Maria talking. I know what you did. You paid Jack Grimes to get rid of her." The guards shifted uncomfortably. The lawyer's face went carefully blank. Sheriff Miller's hand moved to his gun. Ashford's expression turned glacial. "Victoria, you're being hysterical. We'll discuss this at home." "No." Victoria handed Rose back to Eliza. The baby immediately quieted, burying her face against Eliza's shoulder. "Look at her. She's terrified of me, but she's comfortable with these people. They saved her. They love her. They're strangers, poor strangers with no claim to her whatsoever. They're more her parents than we could ever be." Victoria turned to face her father directly. "I was 19 when I got pregnant. Scared and alone. You told me I was a disgrace, that I'd ruined our family name. You locked me in my room for months, and when the baby came, you told me she was dead." It would have been cleaner if she had been. The words hung in the air like poison. Victoria stared at her father. "You really mean that? You'd rather she was dead than alive, and embarrassing you?" "I mean that a bastard child has no place in our family. I'm offering these people a generous solution. They keep the child, I pay them well, and Victoria comes home where she belongs. Everyone benefits." "Except Rose," Eliza said. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the tension. "Except the baby you tried to murder." Ashford's attention shifted to her. "And you are?" "Eliza Hart. I've been caring for Rose since Cole found her." "The shopkeeper. Yes, I know of you. Lost your own daughter, I believe. Quite sad." His tone suggested he found it anything but sad. "I'm sure you've grown attached to the child, but attachment doesn't grant legal rights. The law is clear." "The law can be changed," Cole said. "Not by you. You're a failing rancher with a mortgage in default. Did you think I wouldn't check? You owe the bank $300, due in 10 days. How exactly do you plan to fight me when you can't even keep your own land?" The words hit like a physical blow. Cole felt Eliza's eyes on him, but couldn't meet them. Ashford smiled. It was the smile of a predator that knew it had won. "I own that bank, Mr. Brennan. One word from me, and they'll foreclose immediately. You'll lose everything." "Is one unwanted baby really worth that?" Cole looked at Rose. The baby was watching him with those blue eyes, one tiny hand reaching toward him. "Yeah," Cole said, "she is." "Then you're a fool. Edmund, show him the rest." The lawyer pulled out another document. "This is a foreclosure notice on the Brennan Ranch, to be executed immediately if the child is not surrendered within 24 hours. It's already signed by the bank president." "You can't do that," Sheriff Miller said. "I can and I will. I'm offering Mr. Brennan a choice. Surrender the child peacefully, and I'll forgive his mortgage debt entirely. Keep her, and lose everything." Ashford looked at Cole. "What's it going to be?" Every eye turned to Cole. The guards had their hands near their guns. The lawyer waited with his papers. Sheriff Miller looked ready to intervene, but powerless to do so. Eliza stood on the porch, holding Rose, her face pale but determined. And Victoria Ashford stood between her father and the house, tears streaming down her face, looking like she wished the earth would swallow her whole. Cole thought about his ranch, the land his father had died building, the only thing he had left of his old life. $300 in debt, 10 days until he lost it all, or he could hand over Rose right now, save his ranch, keep his home. He looked at Rose again. She smiled at him, that tiny, trusting smile. "Get off my land," Cole said. Ashford's expression hardened. "You're making a terrible mistake." "Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. You got 20 seconds to get back in those carriages before I start shooting." The guards' hands moved to their guns. Cole raised his rifle, sighted on Ashford's chest. "You won't shoot me," Ashford said calmly. "You willing to bet your life on that?" For 5 long seconds, nobody moved. The wind stirred dust between them. A crow called from the barn roof. Then Ashford nodded to his men. "Stand down, for now." He turned back to Cole, his voice ice cold. "You've declared war on the wrong man, Mr. Brennan. I'll take your ranch. I'll take your cattle. I'll take everything you have. And when you're broken and destitute, I'll still take the child. The only difference is you'll have nothing left." "We'll see about that." Ashford climbed back into his carriage. The lawyer followed. The guards mounted their horses. Victoria stood frozen, staring at Rose. "Victoria!" Ashford called. "Get in the carriage, now!" She didn't move. "Victoria!" "I can't," she whispered. Then louder, "I can't. She's my daughter. I won't help you hurt her again." Ashford's face turned red. "If you defy me on this, you're no longer my daughter. You'll have nothing. No money, no home, no family." "I know." Victoria's voice shook, but she didn't back down. "I've lived with nothing before. At least this time it'll be my choice." Ashford stared at his daughter for a long moment. Then he signaled the driver. The carriages turned and rolled away, leaving Victoria standing in the dust. Sheriff Miller approached Cole. "That took guts. But Cole, he meant what he said. He'll destroy you." "Let him try. I'll do what I can to help, but I'm one sheriff against the richest man in Texas." He tipped his hat to Eliza, then mounted his horse and rode after the carriages, the deputy following. When they were gone, Victoria collapsed, just dropped to her knees in the dirt and sobbed. Eliza handed Rose to Cole and went to Victoria. She knelt beside the younger woman, put an arm around her shoulders. "It's all right," Eliza said softly. "You're safe here." "I'm so sorry," Victoria gasped between sobs. "I'm so sorry for what he did, for what I let him do. You didn't know she was alive. But I should have fought harder, should have demanded to see her body, should have refused to believe him." Victoria looked up at the house where Cole stood, holding Rose. "Is she really okay? Is she healthy?" "She's perfect," Eliza said. "Strong and smart and brave. She's a fighter. Can I see her, please? I know she doesn't know me." "I know I have no right, but please." Eliza looked at Cole. He nodded and came down from the porch. Victoria stood on shaky legs. She approached slowly, like approaching something sacred and fragile. Cole held Rose where Victoria could see her. The baby looked at Victoria with curiosity now, not fear. Maybe she sensed the change. Maybe babies understood more than adults gave them credit for. "Hello, Rose," Victoria whispered. "I'm your mama, your real mama. But I understand if you don't want me. I understand if you never forgive me." Rose reached out and touched Victoria's face. Her small hand patted Victoria's wet cheek. Victoria made a sound between a laugh and a sob. "She's so beautiful." "She is," Cole agreed. They stood there for a moment, the four of them. 2 broken parents, 1 young mother, and 1 baby who'd survived being thrown away like trash. "What happens now?" Victoria asked. "Now we fight," Cole said. "Your father's coming back. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but he's coming. And when he does, we need to be ready. He owns everything, the bank, the businesses, half the judges in Texas. How do we fight that?" "I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out." Eliza helped Victoria inside. They set her up in the spare room, the one that had belonged to Cole's son. It hurt seeing someone in that space again, but it felt right too, like the house was remembering how to be a home. That night, Cole sat on the porch while the others slept. He cleaned his rifle, checked his ammunition, and thought about what Ashford had said. 10 days until the mortgage was due. $300 he didn't have. His cattle were worth maybe $400 if he sold them all. But selling them meant no income, no way to keep the ranch running, even if he somehow kept it. He could ask for loans. But who would loan money to a man fighting Nathaniel Ashford? The situation was impossible. Ashford had him cornered. Within 2 weeks, Cole would lose everything. Unless an idea formed. Dangerous. Maybe stupid, but possible. He'd need help. He'd need people willing to stand against Ashford. And he'd need evidence. Proof that Ashford had tried to have Rose killed. Jack Grimes, the man who'd actually put Rose in that creek. If Cole could find him, get him to testify against Ashford, but Grimes had disappeared. Ashford had said the man was dealt with. That probably meant dead. But maybe not. Maybe Grimes was just hiding. Cole would have to find him. At dawn, he saddled Dust and rode into town. Red Canyon was just waking up. Shop owners swept porches. Horses stood patient at hitching posts. Cole went to the saloon. Even at this early hour, a few men were drinking. Hard men with nowhere else to be. The bartender, a thick man named Dutch, looked up when Cole entered. "Cole Brennan, heard you had some excitement out at your place yesterday." Word traveled fast in small towns. "Need information," Cole said. "Jack Grimes, know where he is?" Dutch's expression closed off. "Don't know no Jack Grimes." "Yeah, you do. Everyone knows everyone in Red Canyon. Grimes was a hired hand, did odd jobs, liked to drink. Where is he?" "Even if I knew, why would I tell you? Ashford owns this saloon. I tell you where Grimes is, I lose my job. Maybe worse." Cole pulled out a $20 bill. It was money he couldn't afford to spend. But he put it on the bar anyway. Dutch looked at the money, then at Cole. "You're going up against Ashford. That's suicide." "Maybe, but I'm doing it anyway. Where's Grimes?" Dutch took the money, made it disappear. "Last I heard, he was holed up in an old line shack about 5 miles north of here, near the ridge. But Cole, he's scared. Real scared. Ashford's got people looking for him. If you're thinking of using him against Ashford, he might not live long enough to testify. I'll worry about keeping him alive." "Thanks, Dutch." Cole left the saloon and rode north. The line shack wasn't hard to find. A small, weathered building tucked into a draw where the canyon walls provided cover. Smoke rose from the chimney. Someone was home. Cole dismounted and approached on foot, rifle ready. "Grimes, I'm coming in. Don't shoot." Silence. Then a voice slurred and frightened. "Go away, ain't done nothing." "I know what you did. I'm the one who pulled Rose out of the creek." More silence. Then, "She alive?" "Yeah, no thanks to you." The door opened a crack. A man peered out, eyes bloodshot, face unshaven. Jack Grimes looked like a man being eaten alive by guilt and fear. "I didn't want to do it," Grimes said. "Ashford paid me $500. Said it was better this way. Said the baby was sick anyway. Wouldn't survive." "She survived." "I know, I heard. I've been drinking ever since, trying to forget. But I can't. I hear her crying in that sack every time I close my eyes." Cole studied him. Grimes was pathetic, weak. But he was also the evidence Cole needed. "Ashford's trying to take Rose back," Cole said. "Got legal papers and judges in his pocket. Only way to stop him is to prove he tried to have her killed. I need you to testify." Grimes laughed, a broken sound. "Testify? Against Nathaniel Ashford? That's signing my death warrant." "You're already dead, Grimes. You're just waiting for Ashford to find you. Help me, and maybe we both survive this. And if we don't, then at least we go down fighting instead of hiding in a shack drinking ourselves to death." Grimes was quiet for a long time. Finally he nodded. "All right. But you gotta protect me. Ashford's got men everywhere. Come back to my ranch. I'll keep you safe." They rode back together. Grimes kept looking over his shoulder, like expecting an ambush any moment. At the ranch, Eliza met them at the door. Her eyes widened when she saw Grimes. "This is the man who put Rose in the creek," Cole said. "He's going to help us." Eliza's expression hardened. "That man tried to kill a baby." "I know, but he's also the evidence we need. Without him, Ashford wins." Eliza looked like she wanted to argue, but she stepped aside, letting them in. Victoria was in the kitchen, holding Rose. When she saw Grimes, her face went white. "You," she whispered. You're the one Father hired." Grimes couldn't meet her eyes. "Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't bring back the months I spent thinking my daughter was dead." "No, ma'am, it don't." They set Grimes up in the barn. Cole wasn't comfortable having him in the house, not with Rose there, but he needed the man alive and able to testify. That afternoon, Cole rode to town to find Sam Cooper, the only lawyer in Red Canyon who wasn't on Ashford's payroll. Sam was a young man, maybe 30, who'd only been practicing law for 3 years, but he had a reputation for being honest, which in Cole's experience was rarer than gold. Sam's office was above the general store. Cole climbed the stairs and knocked. "Come in." Sam Cooper sat behind a desk covered in papers. He was thin, with dark hair and sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. When he saw Cole, he straightened. "Mr. Brennan, I've been expecting you." "You have?" "Everyone in 3 counties has heard about your standoff with Ashford. I figured you'd need legal help eventually." Sam gestured to a chair. "Sit. Tell me what you need." Cole sat and explained the situation. Rose found in the creek, Ashford claiming her, the mortgage threat, Jack Grimes hiding in his barn. Sam listened without interrupting. When Cole finished, the lawyer was quiet for a moment. "This is bad," Sam said finally. "Ashford has Judge Dalton's custody order. That's legal and enforceable. Your only chance is to challenge the order in court. Prove that Ashford is unfit to care for Rose." "How do we do that?" "We show he tried to kill her. Grimes' testimony could work, but it's the word of a drunk against the richest man in Texas. We need more. Corroborating evidence. Other witnesses. There's Maria Santos. She works for Ashford. She's the one who told us about his plan to get rid of Rose." "Will she testify?" "Don't know. She'd lose her job." "Maybe worse." Sam nodded slowly. "And there's Victoria. Ashford's own daughter could testify to his abuse, his treatment of her. That would be powerful." "She's willing, I think." "Good. Then we have a case. Not a strong one, but a case." Sam pulled out a calendar. "Ashford's custody order gives him immediate rights. But I can file for an emergency hearing, argue that the child's safety is at risk. Judge Dalton won't like it, but he'll have to hear us. That'll buy you time." "How much time? A week? Maybe 2 if we're lucky." Cole stood. "Do it. File whatever you need to file. I'll gather the witnesses." Sam extended his hand. "This is going to cost you everything, you know. Even if we win, Ashford will destroy your ranch. He'll make sure you never work in Texas again." Cole shook his hand. "I know. Do it anyway." That evening, Cole gathered everyone in the kitchen. Eliza, Victoria, Grimes. Rose played on a blanket on the floor, babbling happily, oblivious to the storm gathering around her. "We've got a week," Cole said. "Maybe 2. Sam Cooper's filing for an emergency hearing. We need to prepare. Eliza, you'll testify about Rose's condition when we found her. Victoria, you'll talk about your father's abuse and his reaction to Rose's birth. Grimes, you'll admit to what you did and who paid you." "That's not enough," Victoria said quietly. "Father has too much power. Too many people in his pocket. We need something more." "Like what?" "Like community support. If the whole town stands against him, even Judge Dalton will have to pay attention." Cole shook his head. "Half the town works for your father. They're not going to risk their livelihoods. Some will, the people he's hurt over the years, the businesses he's crushed, the families he's destroyed." Victoria's voice grew stronger. "My father has made a lot of enemies. Maybe it's time to remind them they outnumber him." Eliza nodded slowly. "She's right. We need to rally support. Show the judge this isn't just about one baby, it's about standing up to a tyrant." Over the next 3 days, they worked. Victoria went into town, speaking quietly to people she'd known her whole life. Shop owners Ashford had squeezed for protection money, families he'd foreclosed on, workers he'd cheated. The response was cautious at first. People were scared. But slowly, quietly, a resistance formed. Tom Walsh, the blacksmith, pledged his support. Frank Miller, who owned a small farm Ashford had tried to buy, stood with them. Jenny Hayes, who ran the boarding house, offered free rooms to witnesses who needed to stay in town. It wasn't much, but it was something. Meanwhile, Cole prepared the ranch for what he knew was coming. Ashford wouldn't wait patiently for a court hearing. He'd make a move. Try to take Rose by force or destroy Cole's ability to fight. On the third night, Cole's instincts proved right. He was sleeping in the barn, keeping watch over Grimes, when he smelled smoke. Cole bolted upright. Through the barn door, he could see flames. His hay storage shed was on fire, flames climbing 30 feet into the night sky. He ran outside. The heat hit him like a wall. The shed was fully engulfed, flames spreading to the fence line. "Fire!" Cole shouted toward the house. "Fire!" Eliza appeared on the porch, Rose in her arms. Victoria right behind her. "Get water," Cole yelled. "Buckets! Anything!" They worked frantically, hauling water from the well, throwing it on the flames. But it was too little, too late. The shed was gone. $2,000 worth of hay, the feed he needed for his cattle through winter, reduced to ash. As dawn broke and the last embers died, Cole stood looking at the wreckage. Eliza came to stand beside him, Rose asleep against her shoulder. "This was Ashford," she said quietly. "I know. He's not going to stop. I know that too. Cole, maybe we should reconsider. Maybe it's not worth it." Cole looked at Rose, peaceful in sleep, then at the ruins of his shed, then at his ranch, the land his father had died for. "It's worth it," he said. That afternoon, Sheriff Miller rode up with grim news. "Your court hearing is set," he said, "1 week from today. But Cole, I've got to warn you. Ashford's been busy. He's got 3 character witnesses lined up to testify against you, people who'll say you're unstable, violent, unfit to care for a child." "Who?" "Can't say. But they're people with standing in the community. Judge Dalton will listen to them." "And what about our witnesses?" "They'll get their say. But Cole, Ashford owns that courtroom. You're fighting on his ground with his rules and his referee." After the sheriff left, Cole sat on his porch with his head in his hands. Every direction led to failure. The odds were impossible. "Papa?" He looked up. Rose stood at his feet, having pulled herself up using his chair. She'd walked over from where Eliza had set her down, taken her first real steps on her own. She was walking. Rose reached up toward him, her small hands opening and closing. "Up." Cole lifted her. She curled against his chest, one hand patting his face. "Home," Rose said clearly. "Papa, home." And just like that, Cole knew he'd made the right choice. Even if he lost everything, even if Ashford destroyed him, he'd saved this child, given her a chance at life. That had to count for something. The next 7 days passed in a blur of preparation. Sam Cooper drilled their witnesses. Victoria practiced her testimony until her voice was steady. Grimes sobered up enough to speak coherently. The night before the hearing, Cole couldn't sleep. He sat on the porch watching stars wheel overhead, thinking about the 3 graves on his land. Margaret, Emma, Liam. He'd failed them, hadn't saved them when they needed him most. But Rose. Maybe Rose was his chance at redemption. Maybe this was why he'd survived when his family hadn't. To be there for this one child who needed him. Or maybe he was a fool, throwing away everything for a fight he couldn't win. Morning came too soon. They loaded into Cole's wagon, all of them. Eliza holding Rose, Victoria pale but determined, Grimes shaking but present. The ride to Carson City took 3 hours. The courthouse was an imposing building of gray stone, 3 stories tall, with columns flanking the entrance. People lined the streets, more than Cole expected. Tom Walsh and his family, Frank Miller, Jenny Hayes, others, dozens of others, people holding signs. Protect the children. Justice for Rose. Stand against tyranny. Victoria had done her work well. But across the street stood another group, better dressed, more organized. Ashford's people. twice as many as Cole's supporters. The message was clear. Ashford's power was greater. His reach was longer. They entered the courthouse. The courtroom was already packed, every seat filled. More people stood along the walls. At the front table sat Ashford and his lawyer, Edmund Price. 3 other lawyers flanked them, an army of legal power. At the defense table sat Sam Cooper, alone. One young lawyer against Ashford's machine. The bailiff called the room to order. All rise for the Honorable Judge Theodore Dalton. Judge Dalton entered, a man in his 60s with silver hair and a face that gave nothing away. He sat, adjusted his glasses, and looked out over the crowded courtroom. This is a custody hearing regarding the minor child known as Rose, currently in the care of Mr. Cole Brennan. Mr. Ashford has filed for guardianship based on familial relation. Mr. Brennan is contesting this filing. We'll hear arguments from both sides. Edmund Price stood. Your Honor, this is a simple matter of law and biology. The child is Mr. Ashford's granddaughter. Blood relation gives him clear legal rights. Mr. Brennan is a stranger with no claim whatsoever. Mr. Cooper? Judge Dalton looked at Sam. Sam stood, his voice clear and strong. Your Honor, this case is about much more than blood relation. It's about the safety and well-being of a child. We will prove that Mr. Ashford attempted to have this baby murdered and that granting him custody would place her in immediate danger. Murmurs ran through the courtroom. Ashford's face remained impassive, but his eyes were ice. Those are serious allegations, Judge Dalton said. I hope you have evidence to support them. We do, Your Honor. Then let's proceed. Mr. Price, call your first witness. The battle had begun. Edmund Price moved to the center of the courtroom like a man who'd never lost a case. He probably hadn't. Men like Ashford didn't hire lawyers who lost. Your Honor, I'd like to call my first witness, Dr. Harold Winchester. An elderly man in an expensive suit took the stand. Silver hair, distinguished bearing, the kind of doctor who treated rich people in their homes. Price approached him with rehearsed confidence. Dr. Winchester, you examined the child in question yesterday at Mr. Ashford's request, correct? I did. And what was your professional assessment? The child appears healthy now, but she shows signs of inadequate early care, slight developmental delays, malnutrition that's only recently been corrected. Dr. Winchester looked directly at Cole. In my professional opinion, whoever had her before wasn't providing proper care. Cole's hands clenched into fists under the table. Eliza reached over and placed her hand on his arm, steadying him. And in your opinion, Price continued, would the child benefit from being placed in a home with resources, professional care, every advantage? Absolutely. A child of her age needs stability, nutrition, medical supervision. These are things money provides. Thank you, Doctor. No further questions. Sam Cooper stood for cross-examination. He looked young compared to Price's polished aggression, but his voice was steady. Dr. Winchester, you examined Rose yesterday. That's one examination, correct? Yes. How long was this examination? Approximately 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And in those 20 minutes, you determined she had developmental delays. I've been practicing medicine for 40 years. I know what I'm seeing. I'm sure you do. But doctor, who brought Rose to you for this examination? Mr. Ashford arranged it. And who pays your fee? Dr. Winchester's jaw tightened. Mr. Ashford retained my services, yes. So the man trying to gain custody of this child paid you to examine her and provide testimony. Is that accurate? I'm a professional. My medical opinion isn't for sale. Of course not. Just your testimony. Sam glanced at his notes. You mentioned malnutrition. Did you examine Rose 4 days ago when she was pulled from Blackwater Creek? No. So you have no basis for comparison. You don't know if her current health represents improvement or decline from when Mr. Brennan found her. I can assess her current state, but not her trajectory, not whether she's getting better or worse care. Sam paused. Doctor, in your 40 years of medicine, How many babies have you seen who were left in a creek to die? Dr. Winchester shifted uncomfortably. That's not relevant to my examination. I think it is, because this child was found near death, blue lips, hypothermic, barely breathing, and now 4 weeks later, she's healthy enough that your only concern is slight developmental delays. Doesn't that suggest exceptional care? Objection, Price said. Speculation. Sustained, Judge Dalton said. Mr. Cooper, stick to facts. Sam nodded. No further questions. Price called 2 more witnesses, a banker who testified about Cole's failing mortgage, a rancher who claimed Cole was known for a violent temper. Each testimony chipped away at Cole's credibility. Each one painted him as unstable, poor, unsuitable. By the time Price finished, Cole felt like a criminal in his own defense. Your Honor, Price said, the evidence is clear. Mr. Ashford can provide everything this child needs. Mr. Brennan cannot. The law is on our side. I move for immediate transfer of custody. Judge Dalton looked at Sam. Mr. Cooper, I hope you have something substantial, because right now the law does favor Mr. Ashford. Sam stood. Your Honor, we have testimony that will show Mr. Ashford is not just unsuitable. He's dangerous. I'd like to call Dr. Henry Walker. Doc Walker took the stand, moving slowly. At 80 years old, every step was deliberate, but when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of a lifetime of service. Doc Walker, Sam said gently, you examined Rose when Mr. Brennan first brought her to town? I did, September 18th, around 11 in the morning. Describe her condition. Doc Walker's face grew grave. Worst case of hypothermia I've seen in 50 years of practice. Her core body temperature was 89 degrees. Normal is 98.6. Her lips were blue. Her breathing shallow and irregular. Her skin was cold as ice. He paused. That child was dying. Another hour, maybe less, and she would have been gone. Murmurs ran through the courtroom. Several people in the gallery looked at Ashford with open disgust. How long had she been in the water, in your estimation? Based on her condition, I'd say at least an hour, possibly longer. And the burlap sack Mr. Brennan mentioned. Did you see it? I did. It was tied shut with rope. No way for the child to escape on her own. Someone put her in that sack and left her to die. Sam let that statement hang in the air. Thank you, Doctor. Your witness, Mr. Price. Price stood, but his confidence had dimmed slightly. Doctor, Walker, do you know who put the child in that creek? No, sir. Do you have any evidence connecting Mr. Ashford to this alleged crime? Just common sense. That baby is his granddaughter. Someone tried to kill her. Who had motive? Your Honor, Price said. The witness is speculating. I move to strike. Sustained. The jury will disregard Dr. Walker's last statement. There was no jury, just Judge Dalton, but the point was made. Sam called Eliza next. She took the stand with Rose in her arms. The baby had been quiet through most of the hearing, but now she looked around with curious eyes. Mrs. Hart, Sam said, you've been caring for Rose since Mr. Brennan found her. Describe her condition over these past weeks. Eliza's voice was clear and strong. When Cole first brought her to me, she couldn't hold her head up. She was too weak to cry properly. She wouldn't eat. I thought we'd lose her that first night. She looked down at Rose. But she fought. Day by day, she got stronger. She started eating, started smiling, started responding to voices and touch. And now? Now she's a healthy, happy baby. She can sit up on her own. She's starting to walk. She babbles constantly. She knows her name. She calls Cole Papa and me Mama. Eliza's voice thickened with emotion. She's thriving. Mrs. Hart, you lost a daughter of your own 2 years ago. How has caring for Rose affected you? Eliza was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, tears tracked down her cheeks. When my daughter died, I thought I'd never care about anything again. I closed myself off, went through the motions of living without really being alive. She looked at Cole. But Rose changed that. She needed us, And we needed her. We became a family. Thank you, Sam said softly. Your witness. Price stood. Mrs. Hart, you're not married to Mr. Brennan, correct? No. So this family you describe, it's not a legal family. Just an arrangement of convenience. It's not convenient at all. It's hard work. But it's real. Real enough that you'd lie to keep the child? I'm not lying. Aren't you? You're a shopkeeper, single, struggling financially. This child represents purpose for you. Of course you want to keep her. I want what's best for her. And you believe living in poverty with strangers is what's best? Better than a mansion with her own family? Eliza's voice hardened. That family tried to kill her. Yes, I think poverty with people who love her is better than wealth with people who want her dead. Objection! Price's voice rose. There's no evidence Mr. Ashford personally. No further questions, Eliza said, cutting him off. She looked directly at Judge Dalton. That baby was thrown away like garbage. We pulled her out and gave her life. That's all the evidence anyone should need. The courtroom erupted in applause. Judge Dalton banged his gavel. Order! I'll have order. But the damage was done. Eliza's testimony had shifted something in the room. Cole could feel it. Sam called Victoria next. She approached the stand like walking to the gallows. Her father watched her with cold fury. Miss Ashford, Sam said gently, Rose is your daughter, correct? Yes. Victoria's voice was barely audible. Tell us what happened when you gave birth. Victoria took a shaking breath. I got pregnant at 19. I wasn't married. My father was furious. He said I'd ruined our family name. He locked me in my room for months. Her voice grew stronger. When labor started, he brought Dr. Winchester. No one else. The birth was difficult. I was in pain, scared. When the baby finally came, she was crying. I heard her. Then Dr. Winchester took her away. What did your father tell you? That she died. That there were complications and she didn't survive. I believed him. I grieved for months. I still grieve. Victoria looked at Rose, who was now in Cole's arms. Then I heard rumors. A baby found in the creek. I didn't want to hope, but I did. And when I saw her, I knew. I knew she was mine. Miss Ashford, did your father ever tell you what really happened to your baby? Victoria's eyes blazed. He told me it was better she was gone, that a bastard child had no place in our family. He said he'd taken care of the problem. The courtroom exploded with noise. People shouted. Ashford stood, his face red. Judge Dalton banged his gavel repeatedly. Order! I will clear this courtroom if necessary. The noise died down. Sam waited for silence, then spoke quietly. Miss Ashford, are you saying your father arranged for Rose to be killed? Yes, he hired Jack Grimes to get rid of her. I heard the servants talking. I know what he did. Your witness, Mr. Price. Price approached Victoria carefully. His confidence was fully gone now, replaced by desperation. Miss Ashford, you're very young, emotional. Isn't it possible you misunderstood what you heard? I know what I heard. Your father loves you. He's trying to protect your reputation. Can't you see that? He tried to murder my child. That's not love. That's not protection. You're testifying against your own father. Do you understand what that means? Victoria lifted her chin. It means I'm finally doing the right thing. Price had no response to that. He returned to his seat, shaking his head. Sam stood. Your Honor, I call Jack Grimes. This was the moment everything hung on. Grimes shuffled to the stand looking like a man going to his execution. His hands shook. His face was pale. Sam approached him gently. Mr. Grimes, tell the court what happened on September 17th of this year. Grimes swallowed hard. I was approached by Mr. Ashford. He said he had a job for me. Easy money, $500. What was the job? To get rid of a baby, his granddaughter. He said she was sick anyway, wouldn't survive. Said it was kinder to end it quick. The courtroom was dead silent now. Every eye was on Grimes. What did you do? I took the money. God help me, I took it. I got the baby from the house late at night, put her in a burlap sack, tied it shut, threw her in Blackwater Creek. Tears streamed down Grimes' face. I heard her crying in that sack, but I did it anyway. I threw her in and walked away. Why are you testifying now? Because I can't live with what I did. Because that baby deserved better. Because Mr. Brennan gave her a second chance, and I'm not going to let Ashford take that away. Price stood for cross-examination, but he looked defeated. Mr. Grimes, you're a drunk with a criminal record. Why should anyone believe you? Because it's the truth, and because I'm willing to go to jail for what I did, as long as that baby stays safe. You expect us to believe Mr. Ashford, a respected businessman, paid you to commit murder? I don't expect nothing. I'm just telling what happened. Price tried a few more questions, but Grimes held firm. His testimony was devastating. When Grimes stepped down, Judge Dalton called for a recess. I need to consider what I've heard. Court will reconvene in 30 minutes. Those 30 minutes felt like hours. Cole stood outside the courthouse, holding Rose. She was getting fussy, tired of being still for so long. "Papa," she said, patting his face. "Home." "Soon, little one, soon." Eliza stood beside him, Victoria on his other side, their makeshift family, waiting for a judge to decide their fate. Tom Walsh approached, his blacksmith's hands rough but gentle as he touched Rose's foot. "Whatever happens in there, Cole, you did right by this baby. Don't forget that." "Thanks, Tom." Others came by, Frank Miller, Jenny Hayes. Dozens of townspeople offering support. The community Victoria had rallied. Across the street, Ashford stood with his lawyers, isolated and alone despite his wealth and power. No one approached him. No one offered support. He'd bought loyalty, but not love. And in this moment, the difference was stark. The bailiff called them back. The courtroom filled again, tension thick enough to cut. Judge Dalton entered and sat. His face gave nothing away. "I've heard compelling testimony from both sides," he began. "The law clearly states that blood relatives have rights in custody matters. Mr. Ashford's claim as grandfather has legal weight." Cole's heart sank. They'd lost. "However," Judge Dalton continued, "the law also states that the welfare of the child is paramount, and the testimony I've heard today raises serious questions about Mr. Ashford's fitness as a guardian." Hope flickered in Cole's chest. "Mr. Grimes' testimony, corroborated by Miss Ashford's statement and Dr. Walker's medical evidence, suggests that an attempt was made on this child's life. While I cannot prove Mr. Ashford's direct involvement in a criminal court, I can consider it in this custody hearing." Ashford leaned forward, his lawyer whispering urgently in his ear. "Furthermore," the judge said, "I've observed the child during these proceedings. She's calm and content with Mr. Brennan. She shows clear attachment to him and to Mrs. Hart. Removing her from their care would cause trauma." "Your Honor," Price stood. "The law, I know the law, Mr. Price, and the law gives me discretion in matters of child welfare. I'm exercising that discretion now." Judge Dalton looked directly at Cole. "Mr. Brennan, your ranch is failing. Your finances are a mess. By any objective measure, you cannot provide for this child the way Mr. Ashford could." Cole nodded, accepting the truth. "But you saved her life. You've cared for her when no one else would, and she's thriving under your care. That counts for something." The judge turned to Ashford. "Mr. Ashford, you have wealth and influence. You have resources. But you also have a pattern of control and abuse. Your daughter testified to your treatment of her. Multiple witnesses spoke to your character, and Jack Grimes' testimony, while from an unreliable source, aligns too closely with other evidence to be dismissed entirely." "Your Honor, this is outrageous," Ashford said, standing. "I have rights. Rights that you forfeited when you put an infant in danger." "Sit down, Mr. Ashford." For the first time in his life, probably, Nathaniel Ashford had no response. He sat. Judge Dalton looked out over the courtroom. "This is my ruling. Custody of the child known as Rose is granted to Cole Brennan, with Mrs. Eliza Hart serving as co-guardian. Miss Victoria Ashford, as the biological mother, will have visitation rights and may petition for shared custody once she establishes independent residence and employment. The courtroom erupted. People cheered. Some cried. Cole just stood there holding Rose, unable to process what he'd heard. They'd won. Judge Dalton banged his gavel. Furthermore, I'm ordering an investigation into the events of September 17th. Mr. Grimes, you will remain available for questioning. Mr. Ashford, I suggest you retain criminal counsel. This matter is far from over. Your Honor, Price tried one more time, we will appeal this decision. That's your right. But until that appeal is heard, my ruling stands. This child stays with Mr. Brennan. Judge Dalton stood. Court is adjourned. The gavel fell. Final. Cole looked down at Rose. She smiled up at him, oblivious to what had just happened. To her, this was just another day with Papa. We did it, Eliza whispered, tears streaming down her face. We actually did it. Victoria joined them, her own tears falling freely. Thank you. Thank you for fighting for her. She's your daughter, Cole said. You can see her any time. I know, and I will. But you're her father now. You earned that. Victoria touched Rose's hand. Take care of her. I will. I promise. They walked out of the courthouse together into afternoon sunlight. The crowd outside had grown. People cheered as they emerged. Tom Walsh lifted his hat. Frank Miller clapped Cole on the back. It felt like a celebration, like victory. But across the plaza, Ashford stood beside his carriage watching. His face was a mask of rage barely contained. This isn't over, Brennan, he called. I'll appeal. I'll fight this. Do what you have to do, Cole replied, but Rose stays with me. We'll see about that. You still owe the bank $300, due in 3 days. You can't pay that debt. I'll take your ranch, and then we'll see how fit you are to raise a child. The words hit like cold water on the celebration. Cole had forgotten about the mortgage and the chaos of the trial. $300. 3 days. He had maybe $50 to his name. No way to raise the rest. Ashford saw the realization on Cole's face and smiled. Enjoy your victory while it lasts. It'll be short-lived. He climbed into his carriage and drove away, leaving Cole standing in the street with a court order in his hand and a debt he couldn't pay hanging over his head. That night, back at the ranch, they tried to celebrate. Eliza cooked a special dinner. Victoria played with Rose, making her laugh. But Cole couldn't shake the weight of Ashford's words. 3 days. Then he'd lose everything. After dinner, Tom Walsh and Frank Miller showed up with a dozen other men from town. We heard about the mortgage, Tom said without preamble. Heard Ashford's threatening to foreclose. It's his right, Cole said. I owe the money. How much? $300. Tom reached into his pocket and pulled out a small cloth bag. He set it on the table. That's $60. Money I've been saving for a new anvil. Take it. Tom, I can't. You can, and you will. Frank Miller put another bag beside Tom's. $40 for me, was saving for a new plow. One by one, the other men stepped forward. A farmer with $15, a shopkeeper with $20. The saloon owner, Dutch, with $30, he said came from Cole's change from the information about Grimes. By the time they finished, $320 lay on the table. Cole stared at the money, unable to speak. These men had given him their savings, money they needed for their own families, their own dreams. Why? He finally managed. Because you stood up to Ashford, Tom said. Because you fought for that little girl when no one else would. Because you reminded us what it means to do right, even when it costs everything. I'll pay you back, every cent. We know you will. You're good for it. Tom stood. Now get that money to the bank before Ashford can foreclose. And Cole, thank you for showing us we don't have to be afraid. They left. Cole sat alone with the money, Eliza and Victoria having taken Rose upstairs to put her to bed. $320, exact change. The next morning, Cole rode to town. The bank opened at 9. He was there at 8:50, waiting. The bank president, a thin man named Horace Blackwell, looked surprised to see him. Mr. Brennan, I wasn't expecting you. Got your mortgage payment? Cole laid the money on the counter. $300, counted and exact. Blackwell counted it anyway, his face growing longer with each bill. When he finished, he looked up with barely concealed disappointment. This satisfies your current debt. But Mr. Brennan, you're still just one payment away from default. And Mr. Ashford has made it clear he wants your property. Let him want. He won't get it. We'll see. Interest accumulates. Next payment is due in 30 days. Can you make it? Cole thought about his burned hay shed, his depleted herd, the legal fees he owed Sam Cooper. I'll make it. For your sake, I hope so. Mr. Ashford doesn't take defeat well. Cole left the bank and went to Sam Cooper's office. The lawyer was at his desk, papers spread everywhere. Cole, congratulations. We did it. We did, and I owe you for your work. We can discuss payment later. Right now, I'm working on making sure Ashford can't appeal. The grounds are shaky. His lawyers know it. How much do I owe you, Sam? The lawyer hesitated. My usual fee for a case like this would be $500. Cole felt his stomach drop. He'd just scraped together $300. Where would he find $500 more? But, Sam continued quickly, I'm willing to work out a payment plan. Small amounts over time. Whatever you can afford. That's generous. Why? Because you did something brave. You stood up to power. And because I'm tired of men like Ashford controlling everything. Sam extended his hand. Partners? Cole shook it. Partners. 30 days later, the second mortgage payment came due. $300 again. Cole didn't have it, but he had land. 10 acres on the northern edge of his property, rocky ground he'd never been able to use for grazing. Frank Miller had mentioned once, years ago, that those rocks would make good foundation stone for a new barn. Cole rode to Frank's farm that afternoon. How much? Frank asked, when Cole explained. $300. Fair market price is probably $400, but I need it now. Frank looked at the land survey Cole had brought. Then he looked at Cole. You're selling your father's land to keep Rose. Yes. Frank pulled out his wallet. I'll give you $400. That's what it's worth. And Cole, you can buy it back from me any time. Same price. I'll put it in a writing. They shook hands. Cole made his second payment with a day to spare. Ashford's hold on the ranch was loosening, slowly, painfully, but it was loosening. 6 weeks after the trial, Sheriff Miller rode out to the ranch with grim news. He dismounted slowly, his face troubled. Thought you should know, he said. Jack Grimes is dead. Cole felt his stomach tighten. How? Found him in his shack yesterday morning. Officially, they're calling it an accident. Too much to drink, fell, hit his head. The sheriff paused. But Cole, there were fresh horse tracks leading to and from the place. And Grimes had been sober since the trial, trying to turn his life around. Ashford. Can't prove it. But yeah, probably. Sheriff Miller looked troubled. He's tying up loose ends. Be careful, Cole. Watch your back. That night, Cole slept with his rifle closer than usual. Every sound outside made him tense, but no one came. Ashford was smart enough to know that killing Cole or the others now would be too obvious. The harassment continued in other ways. Cattle disappeared. Fences got cut. Water troughs contaminated. Small attacks designed to bleed Cole dry without leaving evidence. But the community rallied. Tom Walsh helped repair fences. Frank Miller let Cole's cattle graze on his land. Dutch at the saloon passed along warnings about Ashford's movements. Over the next few weeks, life found a new rhythm. Victoria moved into the spare room permanently, working with Eliza to care for Rose while Cole worked the ranch. Rose grew stronger every day. She could walk now, toddling around the house on uncertain legs. She could say a dozen words: Papa, Mama, home, more, mine. No, that last one was her favorite. No nap, she'd declare, then fall asleep in Cole's arms 10 minutes later. No bath, she'd shout, then giggle as Eliza washed her hair. She was a normal, healthy, stubborn toddler, everything a child should be. But the community rallied. Tom Walsh helped fix fences. Frank Miller let Cole's remaining cattle graze on his land when Cole's pasture got poisoned. Dutch at the saloon passed along information about Ashford's movements. A year passed, then 2. The legal battles continued, but not the ones Cole expected. Ashford's appeals on the custody ruling were denied, one after another. Judge after judge upheld the original decision. Rose belonged with Cole, but the criminal investigation Judge Dalton had ordered moved forward. Slowly, as these things did in Texas, but it moved. 6 months after the trial, a grand jury was convened in Carson City. The evidence was damning. The court transcript of Grimes' testimony from the custody hearing became crucial evidence. Victoria's detailed account of her father's words and actions. Maria Santos, who finally found the courage to testify about what she'd witnessed in the Ashford house. The trial lasted 3 weeks. In the end, the jury couldn't agree. Hung jury. Ashford walked free on a technicality, but the damage was done. The scandal destroyed what the law could not. Families who'd done business with Ashford for decades pulled away. The bank board forced him to resign. One by one, his properties were sold to pay legal debts. His empire crumbled not from justice, but from shame. The last Cole heard, Nathaniel Ashford had moved to Philadelphia, where no one knew the name or the story. His daughter didn't speak of him. Neither did Cole. Good riddance. Ashford appealed the custody decision twice. Both times, the ruling was upheld. Rose stayed with Cole. For the first 6 months after the trial, Victoria lived at the ranch. She helped Eliza with Rose and the housework, earning her keep through labor rather than charity. She'd never worked a day in her life before, had never scrubbed a floor or washed a dish. But she learned. And for the first time in her life, she felt the dignity of honest work. When the schoolhouse position opened up that spring, Victoria applied. The town board was skeptical. She was Ashford's daughter, after all, tainted by association. But Tom Walsh spoke for her. So did Frank Miller. So did a dozen others who'd seen her transformation. The vote was close, 4-3. But Victoria got the job. She moved into a small house in town, nothing like the mansion she'd grown up in. 2 rooms, a coal stove, a bed she'd bought secondhand. It was the first place that had ever truly been hers, but came to the ranch every weekend to see Rose. The relationship between mother and daughter grew slowly, carefully. Rose knew Victoria as Aunt Vicky, the nice lady who brought presents and told stories. It was enough, for all of them. Eliza and Cole never married. They talked about it once, late one night after Rose was asleep. "Would you want to?" Eliza asked. "Make this official?" Cole was quiet for a long moment. "I loved my wife." "You loved your husband. What we have, it's different. It's good, but it's different." "Partnership," Eliza said, "not romance." "Yeah, that okay with you?" "More than okay. I think we're better friends than we'd be spouses." They shook hands on it, laughing. Their relationship remained what it had always been. 2 broken people helping each other heal, raising a child together, building a family from choice rather than blood. On a sunny afternoon in late autumn, when Rose had just turned 3 years old, Cole took her to the 3 graves. She was old enough now to understand, at least a little. "Papa, who are they?" she asked, looking at the crosses. "My first family, my wife Margaret, my daughter Emma, my son Liam. Where are they?" "They're in heaven, sweetheart. They died a long time ago in a fire." Rose thought about this seriously. Then she picked 3 wildflowers and laid one on each grave. "Hi, family. I'm Rose. I'm Papa's new family." Cole's vision blurred. He picked Rose up and held her close. "That's right. You're my new family, and I love you so much." "Love you too, Papa." Rose patted his wet cheek. "Don't be sad. We're here." "Yeah, we are." They stood there for a while, the living and the dead, connected by love and loss and the strange paths that bring people together. When they walked back to the house, Eliza had lunch ready. Victoria had ridden out from town. They ate together, laughing and talking, Rose chattering about everything and nothing, the way 3-year-olds do. It wasn't the family Cole had planned. It wasn't the life he'd imagined, but it was real. It was honest, and it was built on the strongest foundation he knew: love, choice, and the promise he'd made to a dying baby in a creek that no one would hurt her again. He'd kept that promise. Through trials and threats, through poverty and persecution, he'd kept her safe. And in saving her, he'd saved himself. That evening, as the sun set over the canyon, Cole sat on his porch with Rose in his lap. She was getting sleepy, her head heavy on his shoulder. "Papa, tell me the story," she murmured. "Which story?" "The creek story. How you found me." Cole had told this story 100 times. It never got easier. "Once upon a time," he began, "there was a cowboy who was very sad. He'd lost his family, and he thought he'd never be happy again. Then one day, while checking his fences, he heard a tiny voice calling for help." "That was me," Rose said, even though her eyes were closed. "That was you. You were in the water, and you were very cold. But you were brave. You fought to stay alive until someone could save you. And you saved me. I pulled you out. But really, sweetheart, you saved me. You gave me a reason to live again. You taught me that family isn't just blood. Family is the people who choose to love you, even when it's hard." Rose was asleep now, breathing softly against his chest. Eliza came out onto the porch and sat beside them. "She's getting so big." "She is." "Cole, I've been thinking. We should adopt her, officially. Make it legal so Ashford can never challenge it again. Sam mentioned that, said it would be complicated since we're not married. We could get married, just legally, for Rose." Cole looked at Eliza. In the fading light, he could see the woman she'd become over these past 3 years. Stronger, happier, complete. "No," he said gently. "What we have is real, without a piece of paper. And Rose knows who her family is. That's enough." Eliza nodded. "You're right. It is enough." They sat in comfortable silence as stars began appearing overhead. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. The wind carried the scent of sage and earth. This was home. This was family. Not perfect, but real. And for Cole Brennan, after so many years of being lost, that was more than he'd ever hoped to find. Rose stirred in his arms, mumbled something in her sleep. Cole adjusted his grip, held her closer. "I've got you," he whispered. "Papa's got you, always." The promise he'd made in a courtroom 3 years ago, the promise that had cost him everything and given him everything. Some families are born, some are found. The best ones are chosen. Cole had chosen Rose that day by the creek. And every day since, he chose her again. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. The end.